Hey guys, we are digging back into the Diamond Select Real Ghostbusters line today, taking a look at the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man figure. This enormous marshmallow action figure is in their standard style packaging. So you've got in there, in that humongous window, we have got the logo that runs down the front there. We've got a product shot of the Stay Puft and the GB logo on the side of the package. And then the back of the box has got a bit of a write-up as well as cross-sell for the other figures that are in this small wave. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, Mr. Stay Puft himself. And this figure is interesting, and I have to preface that statement by saying that I'm not really sure what I thought I was getting when it came to this figure. He is an action figure in the sense that he is articulated, but this guy is really just a movable statue, I guess is the better way to say it. And frankly, I probably should have expected that. I mean, just look at the body structure on this thing. He's not going to be dynamic in any way. But that doesn't still translate all that well. So we're going to start by taking a look at articulation, see what this guy can't do, really, because it's very, very, very limiting. So we'll just start at the head, and this guy has a double ball peg, so it goes in, and there's this humongous, like, canyon almost in his neck. So he can go backwards, and then he can go basically about to neutral. He can't lean forward, he can only go backward, and then you can twist, and then you've got a little, wiggle room there side to side. The arms move, but only about that much. I mean, you can just see he has marshmallows for arms, so they stick in this giant cavity. You can twist them around and move them back and forth a little bit. He does have a twist and another ball peg here, and then you've got a ball peg at the wrist, so you've got a little twist there. But otherwise, I mean, he's basically just meant to sort of stand like this and, maybe look like a mascot. There is obviously nothing at the waist here. You don't have any kind of articulation there. And then we've got the legs, and they're the point of contention for me because he can move, but I really don't find many ways that you can position these legs where he can actually stand. Fresh out of the box, all this guy wanted to do was fall backwards. He seems to be rather back heavy. So you've got legs that can swivel at the thigh, and that's it. This is one single piece, and then you've got swiveling feet, but they're oriented in such a way that in order to get the feet as flat on the floor or flat on the ground as possible, that the legs have to be a specific way because everything has to kind of line up almost. So the legs, the marshmallow segments need to go a specific way on this guy, at least in my experience, to make him stand up. So, he is articulated. Let's not say he's anything different. He is an articulated figure, but there is no action here. The draw, of course, though, after I finish railing on the articulation of this guy, the draw here is the look, and there's no other way around it. This thing is meant to be a focal point of a Real Ghostbusters shelf. Not to mention the fact that, he is a massive figure, and we'll show some size comparisons, because this thing is truly quite large in many respects. It looks like it jumped right out of the screen, and I do think that for the most part they did a pretty good job. I don't have 100% positive things to say about some paint apps, but the sculpt I think is really nicely done. It of course affords him no mobility, but it's a giant marshmallow man, so I guess, you give him the look rather than give him the articulation, and I'll side with them when it comes to that. I'd much rather him look as close to screen accurate as possible, and I think Diamond has done a pretty good job here. Mostly the figure is done up in this matte white color, and then there is hints of blue kind of overspray to give it that give it that shadow look almost, so you can see it in some of the the marshmallow rolls on this guy, or at the ankles, or at the fingers, or at the wrists, things like that, just to give it a little bit of color and a little contouring as well, and I think it works pretty nicely. And then there's not much to speak of on the back. He does have his whatever this article of clothing is called. It's done up in navy blue plastic, and you've got the red bow tie here. The piping on the line work is kind of rough. It's not 100% straight. It's kind of jaggy. At a distance, it doesn't really matter, but up close you can kind of see those imperfections. I think the head sculpt, though, is pretty solid. It's really nicely done. It very much looks like a giant marshmallow shoved on top of this big fat white thing. And the expression's really nicely done. You've got that big mouth with the shadowy tongue in there, and then of course you've got the Stay Puft hat with the logo, with the little tassel hanging off the end, and it just looks exactly like the cartoon character, which is what we want, which is what I want. Of course, I would like him to have more articulation, but at the expense of the look, There's no question about it. I'm much more happy that he looks about as perfect as can be and doesn't really move that well, rather than moves all over the place and has a bunch of weird cuts and jagged body structure. Now, in terms of scale comparisons, just to give you an idea of how big this thing is, here he is with a recent Marvel Legends figure, Living Laser, one of the more agile, smaller scale bodies, and with Egon from this same line. So you can see that against a more normal 1/12 scale figure, Living Laser is just dwarfed by this guy. Egon scales a little bit differently just because he is a larger type of figure to begin with, but you can see that even then there is just so much more going on here when it comes to plastic and just the general size here. There is like a night and day difference between the two. You can't really understate just how big this guy is. And I mean, it makes sense. He's supposed to be a big fat marshmallow spirit ghost thing, and it comes through very well in the size and the heft, because he's a hefty figure. There's a lot of weight, a lot of plastic going on here. So overall, this figure is still quite a bit of fun. Don't get me wrong, I am still somehow a little disappointed in the fact that he really doesn't do a whole lot. You can basically just swivel his limbs and that's about it, which really affords no dynamic posing, no real articulation. He's still just kind of a statue. That said, he does look about as perfect as can be for this particular line. I really do think Diamond has done a really solid job when it comes to the looks of these figures. Obviously, I've had some QC issues with some of mine in the past, but this figure is pretty solid. Literally, it's just a huge figure, but it definitely looks like what I wanted it to look like. It looks like Stay Puft, like he jumped right out of that cartoon show, and that's the goal here, and I think they've done a really good job. Limited articulation or not, this thing looks about perfect. So that's going to do it for this look at the Diamond Select Stay Puft figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.